Alright guys, well, we're about to get started. I can't see Jack on this camera. That's fine.
We've got one last speaker joining us today. He is not a doctor, as he is. I've heard him tell me and others this evening in the last 5 minutes. But we are not going to hold that against you.
Nice.
Welcome, and I would like you all please to help me welcome Kenny-Vo.
Hello everybody, how's it going? How does it feel to be the last show of the night? All right, everyone's a little tipsy, all right? Perfect. Well, anyways, my name is Kenny, guys. I build robots. Some of you probably know who I am. I'm the guy on TikTok, the guy on YouTube who's building an AI system to help detect heart attacks and strokes in kids before they happen. So I work with the University of Calgary, and I work with the Alberta Children's Hospital, and then I make videos on YouTube. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about super intelligent AI systems. Yeah, so this is a common question I get all the time. When are the AI overlords going to take over the world, enslave us, turn us into batteries, put us in farms, all these things? You name it, I've seen it, I've heard it, and the simple answer is tomorrow. The simple answer is it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether it's going to happen, if or when it's going to happen. But the one thing that we have to struggle with as people is the concept of consciousness. What makes a super intelligent AI system? Now, I want to do this. I want to do a little experiment with you guys. I want you guys to picture a refrigerator, all right? And in the morning, when you wake up, you go to the refrigerator and you open the door, and it's built with AI systems, and it says, hey, good morning. Looks like you could have eggs, breakfast with eggs, bacon, blueberries, and one piece of toast. Pretty straightforward, right? But the cool thing is, as you go about your day, the system starts to learn more things about you. It actually searches the internet, finds all the latest and greatest trending meals, all the greatest diets, all the nutritional facts around the world, all the studies that are being performed to make you the best human you could be. And when you come home, the system says, hey, you know what? I've noticed your iron is a little high. Let's cut back on that. Instead of doing steak this day, we'll do chicken instead. And it makes your life so much easier. Would you guys agree with that? You know, every day, all your meals, everything's planned. It calculates your calories. It calculates all these things. You don't have to think about it. You can go about your day doing all these other things and come home and your meals are all planned out for you. For me personally, I would love something like that because I just hate dealing with the small, mundane decisions of my life. But here's where it gets interesting. Let's just say you're going to Hawaii and you're like, I want to lose 5 pounds. You tell your fridge this and your fridge is like, great, let's lose 5 pounds in 2 weeks. Let's get you on that plane looking hot, sexy. Let's get it done. And it plans out your meals for you. It calculates your calories. It calculates everything you've ever needed. It does the latest and greatest trends, the hottest meal plans, and even like nutritional breakdowns for you. So you're not in a huge deficit. And it does all of this every day. And then you go out in the day, you have fun with your friends, you come back and you go, fridge, I just had 50 chicken nuggets. What do we do? And it goes, Ken, I got your back. Let's do this. And it reconfigures your entire meal plan. It calculates for you everything you'll ever need to do in order to get your goals. Pretty cool, right? When you're sad, it comes up to you and says, Kenny, hey buddy, we gotta cut back a little bit. But that's okay, because you're doing great. It does all these things that we as humans would love to have, right? We would love to have a machine kind of take care of all these little things in our life. But the real question is, when does it become conscious? When does it become something more than just a machine? When I punch it, do I feel sad? And if I unplug it, would it be considered murder? Right? We program all these things into our machines to help us in day-to-day life, but we fail to realize that as machines develop over time, they become a little bit more human. Take dogs and horses, for example. Back in the 1800s, we used to think of them as tools. We used to think of them as single-minded organisms. They want to eat, they want to sleep, that's about it, right? But over the years, something really strange has happened. We as humans have begun to humanize everything. We give our dogs names. We give our dogs clothes. We talk to our dogs. We cry into our dogs. They become our emotional support animals. We literally call them family members. But a dog has never said to a human, buddy, like, I want to be like a human. He's never said that to us. It's all something that we as humans have developed over the years, as we've seen animals develop emotional connections with each other. And we've seen animals understand things that we need as humans. They protect us, take care of us, they love us. We humanize these animals to the point where you look at today's world, even animals have rights. So the big question is, if we continue to develop these AI systems, at what point do they become so conscious that we as humans are the ones that decide to give them their own rights? Pretty scary, right? Like, if a firefighter comes to my house and my house is on fire, I'm gonna be like, fire guy, like, I know you're a human, but you gotta get in there, buddy. My dog's in there. Like, you gotta fight that fire for me. It's scary, right? Like, we have developed these connections with these animals to that point. And I think that machines eventually will get to that point as well. You know? And the crazy thing about machines, and a lot of people don't understand, and this is why AI is such a hot topic, is that machines actually have bias. AIs specifically have bias. They have bias in two things: the developers and their inputs, their programs and the people they learn from. That's it. Machines are super simple. You have an input, a calculation, and an output. But we as humans, we have bias. We create our programs with bias. If I make a machine to help save someone's life, it's because my bias says life is important. Life is valuable and it should be saved. But the crazy thing is, as we start using all these AI systems, it's learning off of you guys. All the things you do in life. You don't think that's the case, but it really is. You look at advertisements, everything you search is being put into an algorithm, and AI is thinking about it, spits you back the ads you want to see. Everyone's got a Ring doorbell these days. Everyone's got a phone. When an emergency happens, no one's calling 911. Everyone's grabbing their phones. Our lives are constantly being scrutinized and analyzed by machines. And that's just what happens. Our day-to-day lives, we live on an online world. We put our healthcare information all on the internet. We access all of our information over the web. If you want something, you Google it. If you want to buy something, you buy it. The algorithm tracks you, it figures out what you want to buy, and spits it back out. Everything we do is on the internet. You can't even walk down the street without being on a CCTV camera. And the scary thing is, as these machines, they start to learn after us, it's exactly what we want. In our day-to-day lives, say we have a really tough job, the demand is crazy. The demand in our lives is insane, and we do everything in our power to try to make our lives as efficient as possible, as easy as possible. We give machines the ability to make small decisions for us, mundane decisions that we just don't have time for anymore. We're too busy with our own lives to try to deal with every minor problem. So we build these machines to try to help us. And in building these machines, they slowly but surely learn off of us and become biased. And that biased state is what scares us, because in order for them to help us, they ultimately need to be like us. They ultimately need to start learning from all these little things across the internet about us to help us. You look at cashiers, they're being replaced by kiosks. All these little things are just a humanization of a robot. But the scary thing in all this, and this is where people get a little bit touchy and gooey on, is if a machine is mirroring a human, for example, and it's doing things that we commonly do on our own, we as humans have developed machines to help us be more efficient. What if I told you that in a far-off world, there are so many things that humans have to do that even an AI couldn't keep up with it? A machine that calculates thousands upon thousands upon thousands of decisions every second using the world's information, could not keep up with it. What do you think the logical solution is for a machine? What was that?
Logical, emotional intelligence, I suppose.
Yeah, it would create another AI system to help it. It's super logical. We as humans are like, oh, let's create a machine to help us. And AI says, you know what? That's the logical solution for a human. Let's do that too. Let's create more AIs. Now we have a baby. So now we have machines building other machines. And this is where all the sci-fi movies come together, where machines are factories building machines, the Terminators and stuff. This is where all the sci-fi comes in. But in reality, it's a mimicry of us. But we're really far off from that. But it's something to start thinking about when we're talking about super intelligence, right? There's a point in which we say, this is intelligent and this is not. And it's a real gray area there. Like I can imagine like a bricklayer, for example. If a bricklayer was laying bricks every day, he'd be like, how do I lay more bricks? Oh, let me just teach these 5 guys to lay bricks. And all of a sudden they're laying bricks. And eventually speaking, they'll be like, man, how do we lay more bricks? Oh, let's teach the next 5 guys and let's teach the next 5. It's super logical. And it's something that we often forget when we're dealing with these machines. And then the question comes up, when do we give machines rights? If they're making all of these decisions, doing all these things for us, when do we give them rights? Do we ever give them rights? Do we ever give them the power to make decisions so critical to our lives, but so logical that we just feel like it's up in the air? I had a viewer one time, and they talked about their grandma, and their grandma is in critical care. And they told me, they're like, hey, what if I asked like an AI system what I should do? I would tell them, the AI would take everything into consideration, your kids' futures, what's best for your family financials. What about long-term care? Does that fit within your plan? Can your family support this emotionally? A super intelligent AI would consider all these facets and make a decision for your loved one. That's what it would do. And honestly speaking, it would be super logical to the point where a human might actually listen to what it said. And at that point, we've essentially relinquished control or rights. We've given rights to a machine. And that's one of those things that freaks people out, because as much as I'd like to stand here and tell you guys that we can totally stop this, I am not entirely convinced. There are bad actors in the world, there are good actors in the world, but every machine, like I said, is biased. And it really comes down to just our humanity. That's the biggest challenge that we face in robotics. Each and every one of us here probably knows someone, our grandmas, our kids even, probably have seen ChatGPT. Everyone and their dog uses it nowadays. It's all on our phones, it's everywhere. It's actually become so mainstream that a lot of the underground AI development stuff just been blowing up. Google's announced that they are developing new things. Websites like Yahoo have developed things. It's just like, it's everywhere. And it's become more and more difficult to contain. Because now not only is machine learning off of the developers, it's learning off of the world. And honestly speaking, our humanity is probably our biggest enemy when it comes to super intelligent AIs. There are very few words that I can use to give you guys a solution as to whether or not an AI will have rights one day. There are very few things that I can predict and say if one day an AI will come out and be like, yo, you know what? We're pretty useless. But in order to protect us, this is the best thing we need to do. I couldn't tell you if that's going to happen or not. But I can say that it becomes more of a human issue than most of us think. There was a a really great story about, hey, how a mother was talking to her kid, and how you teach a child is very intimate, if you will. You try to teach a child things like good morals, how to do things, what's right and what's wrong. And the child instinctively knew, because it knows what pain is, it understands all these little facets about life. But a machine does not do that. A machine does not feel pain. If I cut my toaster in half, it's not going to care, right? A machine does not understand any of those things. But in order for it to do something for us, we have to keep on developing it to understand certain parts. That also includes teaching it not to do things. If I were to try to teach a machine not to kill a human with shock therapy, well, the machine obviously has to understand what shock therapy is and how it can use shock therapy to kill a human. So for it to understand what not to do, it has to understand what it can do. And what it can do is scary. So you're thinking about teaching an AI not to stab someone. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that AI probably already knows how to stab someone. And therein lies the problem. And there is not a whole lot of things we can do. As the human population increases, there's no way for us to be like, guys, I need you guys to stop doing this. Just everyone, take a pause for a year. We're going to continue to grow over the years. I can't tell people at NASA to be, guys, we can't go to the moon, guys. We can't keep doing science in space. I can't tell that, because eventually the Earth's going to run out of resources, and we're going to need to advance in the world. We're always going to have more demand of us, and we're always going to need more systems to help us navigate the lives that we live. Not even just for us, but for the kids in the next generation. They're going to be growing up with AI systems in their schools. You think about calculators. When we grew up, calculators were like, everyone, no calculators, do your tests, all the math by hand. Nowadays, we have classes dedicated to teaching kids how to use calculators properly. That's the world they're going to grow up in. They're going to grow up to a world where a kid will have to navigate the worlds of AI. If my kid was studying by the books and another kid was using AI system, he's getting A+, you bet my kid's going to go to AI class. He's going to fall behind.
So AIs learn from us. Can they not learn a moral compass?
Moral compass is an interesting concept because everyone has a different moral compass.
Isn't it two sort of intelligences? So you've got your logical intelligence, where sort of your more sort of machines would learn from logical intelligence, and then you've got your emotional intelligence, where that's sort of more humanized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, let me give you an example to answer that question. Who here has used AI art before?
AI.
Art.
Oh, yeah.
Generating art, right? It uses millions of samples. Millions upon millions of samples. If I were to say, who owns this piece of art that this AI has generated? Everyone would be like, oh yeah, I own 1/1,000,000th of it, right? I own a small, tiny portion of it. Or if I said, okay, well, this AI has generated 1,000,000 different pieces of art, how are you going to do any sort of litigation to prove that you are the 1,000,000th owner of each piece? The problem with moral compass is everyone is different. And if a machine takes samples from each and every one of us here, that wouldn't outweigh even 0.000000001% of the vast amount of people in the world that are training it with their own moral compass. We would have literally zero effect. Yeah, it learns the good and the bad.
Everybody's moral compass is different.
Everyone's different. Yours is different from mine. If we were facing the same situation, we would struggle because we're not going to be perfectly aligned. Right? And that's where this whole issue comes to play. Because a super intelligent AI takes in consideration all of us as it's like a humanity state. And that's the part where everyone's like, how do we stop it? let's slap it with laws, let's slap it with regulations, let's slap it all these things. There are literally zero rules in today's age on how we regulate AI systems because we've never been in this situation before. Laws and rules have been made for humans, not human-like entities. So if a machine acts like a human, do we treat it like a human? Does it follow laws? No. I can't access the internet in my brain. I wish I could. I'd be so smart. But I couldn't do that, right? So that's the truth of the matter. And I'd love to stand here and be guys, this is how we stop Skynet. This is how we ended Terminator. This is how we do things. But the reality of the fact is, it's sort of inevitable. There's no way for us to really get ahead of the curve. And I know this sounds really doom and gloom, and some guy in the back's probably like, you know what? Hook me up to the simulation. I'm done. I'm good. Let the AI overlords take over. But I don't want to leave you guys off feeling like the world's at an end. There are great people working on AI systems all over the world, and their bias is also implemented into those systems. There are good people in the world who use AIs for good things. There's a really, really awesome quote that I heard. It's that robots are fast, they're accurate, but they are dumb. Humans, well, we're slow, we're inaccurate, but we're brilliant. AI systems who emulate humans, well, they're fast, they're accurate, and my God, they're brilliant. And that's a scary thing, but with all the good things that come with AI systems, it also seems to have a lot of the negative drawbacks that we as humans have. And that in lies our probable solution. If we're looking for a way to slow down AIs or stop AIs or bow down to the overlords, there's something in our humanity that we need to tap into in order to find the solution. Yeah. Any questions?
All of them.
All of them. Oh, thank you. I was so nervous. My forehead was shining like 1,000 suns.
We have time for a couple questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Nice. Everyone's
There's one.
Oh.
There's
Okay,
three.
so earlier we learned that humans are assholes.
We're reminded.
We're
reminded.
We're reminded. So if the computers are learning from us,
We're fine.
we're sorry about it.
Yeah. There's always a moral dilemma. Yeah. Like if I told you a problem with robotic cars, for example, what would happen if you had a car, a wife, a child, a father, and like 2 children? Wife, husband, 2 children in a very smart car, very nice car. And on the side of the road, a grandma with 3 kids. And the computer says, I can either save my family or I can save those kids over there. How does a computer analyze that? It's not to say that it's an asshole, but how does a computer
All
compute
it
that?
implies that decision-making process is logic. There's no morality in that.
Exactly.
They just say mathematically and what makes no sense. is
What's
that
the
I would
value of a
execute
human
this.
Well, didn't Tesla have the same? They had an accident or whatever because the algorithms didn't recognize somebody in a crosswalk as a human.
Yeah.
Because it hadn't learned from enough data.
Yeah, that's a technical issue of seeing things. The problem lies more closely into the personal relationships of the people it sees. What if I told you in this car scenario that the car looks at the 2 drivers and says, wow, these 2 are pretty well off. It scrubs the internet, finds everything about them. One's a doctor, one's a surgeon. And it says they're really well off and their kids are set up in really nice Ivy League schools. Their value for future generations goes up exponentially, right? Same thing happens in the reverse. When it looks at the grandma out there, oh wow, you know what? The grandma's actually a billionaire. And she actually has a foster home for orphans, and she takes care of thousands of kids around the world, not just these 3. Right? When we're talking about interpersonal things, machines starting to look at every aspect of our lives, not just the value of a human life, 2 kids versus 3, but interpersonally, who we are as people, what we bring to society, our net worth, potential future children. The grandma's not going to have any more kids, but the 2 husband and wife going to town, 7 kids later, who knows?
But the thing is, what if it's got misanthropic values where it's like, well, there's too many of us anyways?
Maybe. That's another problem too. If it says, hey, you know what? We got enough kids in the world.
Yeah.
Send them off the hill.
We're just back to the
You know?
same question that people have been trying to answer for millennia, well, centuries,
Mhm.
which is what is the nature of a human?
Yeah, exactly.
Is
And-
it the higher order thinking? Is it survival and your life is nasty, brutish, and short?
Mhm.
But it can't just be the higher order thinking, because AI has already got us on that.
Exactly.
It can calculate faster and more accurately.
We had another question up at the over there in the
Oh.
glasses.
Sorry. Did you have a question? Oh, you just stretching?
Just in front of the lady who's standing.
Oh.
You had your hand up.
It was you?
Somebody there had a question.
Sorry, I can't see jack shit.
Because you do like medical research, like involving AI.
Yeah.
So like, where is the line drawn between like where AI is like a good thing because you're using it for like a good reason with children's health, and like where is it like a bad thing where it's impacting our everyday lives, where it's like taking over? Where's the line drawn?
It's all in the eye of the beholder. I'm developing a heart rate system. So this system looks at your face, and as your skin tone changes, it does video amplification on your skin tones, and it can trace your heart rate through just a camera. Cheap Chinese $5 camera can detect your heart rate. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
How do you follow your research?
It's all on TikTok. It's all on YouTube. I'll give you the link afterwards. But yeah, it's a heart rate system that watches people's heart rate. And some of the kids at the hospital, well, they have heart failures all the time. So would you rather have a nurse stand there 24/7 watching this kid, or would you have them send them home and have a machine watch them, where they're comfortable, where they're happy? Parents can be there. If a parent leaves a kid at home and that kid has a heart attack, well, the parents can't stay home all the time. There's no physical way for mom and dad to be like, I gotta stay home and watch my kid until he's 20. I gotta go to work. So the benefits for that outweigh the negatives. The negatives being, oh, now you want to put a camera in my house. Now you want to put 20 cameras in my house. What if I get hacked? What if a burglar comes in, gets a hold of the cameras, and sees everything in the house? What if some weirdo on the internet watches my kid? It's all in the eye of the beholder. It all depends on what a specific person needs and what they're willing to risk and lose for that benefit. So when it comes to the medical field, AI systems, two-way street, you'll always have the people who are like, no, you know what? I'll take the chances with myself. And then you'll have the people like me, for example. I worry about my parents all the time. That's the whole reason why I started this project. My mom is at home, she breaks a leg, she can't reach the phone. What happens? Right? Who's gonna help her? I'm not God, I can't see everything. And so I worry, I stress. I think about her all the time. And I tell myself, what if something happens and no one's there to help her? Well, an AI system can detect someone falling, call for help, and bada bing, bada boom. You've got two people who benefit. My mom, who benefits from getting help faster, and we've already had success with this, which is a crazy story. We've cut down the police response time with the EV system that I'm developing from 5 minutes all the way down to 1 minute and 30 seconds. Huge difference. Massive difference. All it does is it tells the police and the paramedics exactly the information they need. And by the time they get there, they know exactly where she is, how to get into the home, her medical history. Saves so much time. It's a difference of 4 minutes, but the difference of 4 minutes, huge, life-changing. I had my neighbor who fell down as well, and she's another test subject. Test subject 018. I know, I named them with numbers. I'm weird. She fell. And the nearest hospital to her and the nearest ambulance to her was 17 minutes away. And she couldn't do anything. And this is where I messed up too, because she actually fell out of camera range. I had zero chance to see. The machine has to determine what happened to someone when they can't see it. That's something I've learned and I've started working on. But it broke my heart when I saw the footage again. It was my neighbor on the ground, legs in the air, flailing, screaming. And I'm like, if only I had a camera just aimed just a little bit down. But she stayed there in pain, 7 minutes of pain, before the system kicked in and says, you know what? I saw her leaving the house, but I didn't see her get into the car. Where is she? It took time.
Sounds good. Does it take audio into account?
It takes audio to go, but if I did this, ah! What's happened to me?
That doesn't trigger anything?
No.
We have time for one more question. There's been somebody patiently with their hand in the air up at the top. Got your hand in the air now. You got bracelets on.
Yeah.
Hi. So my question isn't related to AI, but it's more related to your research
Yeah.
about the skin color changing and heart rate.
Mhm.
What are you doing to kind of like remove bias between different skin colors? Because I know in the medical field, rashes show up differently on white skin than it does on black skin. So how do you do the rate of change for people with darker skin?
Great question. As your face palpitates with blood, it swells. Video amplification can actually determine the differences between your cheeks and your bone structures that doesn't change. It can detect how thick your skin is. It's crazy. We use it in factories as well. As the factories vibrate, to the human eye, it just looks like a factory doing nothing. But to a machine, watching very individual frames, and you can see this on YouTube too, I put videos everywhere for you guys. You can see the machines oscillating. And over time, that oscillation causes cracks, fissures, breakages in the machine that people don't even see. Engineers are like, oh, it looks pretty good, feels pretty good, it's humming away. But a machine can detect those little things. So I implemented the same system to have it detect palpitations in our throats, in our necks, in our cheeks. So that skin color is just one aspect of the analysis process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Can we all thank Kenny-Bo for a great chat tonight?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, if you have any questions, meet me outside, or we can talk.